overview of the Edgenuity lesson, Factoring Polynomials Completely. If you get on our Schoology page, you'll see that at the very bottom on the materials section, I have added a factoring flowchart on there for you to kind of follow the steps you need to take when you're factoring these polynomials. So I don't have one in front of me, but I'll just talk about it as we go through. So the first question on there is you have to ask yourself, can I divide something out of all the polynomials? So is there a greatest common factor that I could divide out of all of them? So with these four terms here, looking at 8, 24, 10, and 30, the biggest thing that I can take out of them is 8, 2. And have them all stay integers. Now, we cannot take out any variables because this 30 doesn't have a variable on it. So we can't divide out an x because this one doesn't have an x to give. So if I factor out that 2, so divide everything by 2, we have 4x cubed plus 12x squared plus 5x plus 30. So ignoring this, because we took out our greatest common factor, on our flowchart, the factoring flowchart, it has different paths. So the next thing you need to ask yourself is how many terms are there? So I have 1, 2, 3, 4 terms. Whenever there's 4, if it factors, you have to do factor by grouping, where you split it up in half. So we have this 2 is just going to scoot along with us as we go, but we don't need it right now. So looking here, 4x cubed and 12x squared. The biggest thing that I can divide out of 4 and 12 is a 4. I'll just do a double set of parentheses, I guess. And then this is x cubed and this is x squared. So they both have at least 2 x's on there, so I'm also going to take out an x squared. 4x cubed divided by 4x squared is just x. 12x squared divided by 4x squared is 3. Okay, now let's look at the back two. The biggest thing that I can divide out of, whoops, I messed up. I forgot to divide the 30 by 2. So this, when I divided 30 by 2, I should have put that this was 15, not 30. I don't know what I was thinking. So looking at the back two, we have 5x plus 15. The biggest thing that we can divide out of that is a positive 5. 5x divided by 5 is x. 15 divided by 5 is 3. Okay, so as a reminder, if you get to this step and these two things don't match, then either one, it's a prime polynomial, or you haven't factored correctly. So we have that 2 that floated along in the front with us, the matching factor of x plus 3, and if I were to pull those out, I would be left with 4x squared plus 5. I automatically know I can't go any further because if I look here, yes, this is a perfect square. It's 2x squared. But this is an addition, and when you're doing squares, it has to be a difference of squares, and also 5 is not a perfect square, so that one is stuck how it is. Okay, so looking at the next one, first, is there anything I can divide out? They're all divisible by 2x. 4x cubed divided by 2x leaves us with 2x squared. 10x squared divided by 2x leaves us with 5x. And negative 6x divided by 2x leaves us with negative 3. Okay, so then the next question, how many terms are there? There are 3. If you look at the factoring flowchart, if there are 3 terms, there's 2 options. One where there's no number in front of x squared, and then one where there is. So we have a leading coefficient. We have a number in front of x squared. So we have to do the AC method, where you do a times c, and we have to decide what 2 numbers multiply to make negative 6 and add to make the middle term 5. That would be positive 6. If I multiply them, I get negative 1. 6 plus negative 1 is 5. Now, that's not the answer. That tells us how to break up the middle term. So I'm going to write it as 2x squared. Instead of 5x, I'm going to put positive 6x minus 1x minus 3. Now that we have 4 terms in there, we can do factor by grouping, like we did on the previous problem. So looking at the first 2, we're going to ignore that. The biggest thing that I can divide out of 2x squared and 6x is a 2x, and that will leave me with x plus 3. Now out of the back, remember we never want this term here to be negative. So because it's a -1 and a -3, I'm just going to divide out a -1. So -1x divided by -1 is positive x. -3 divided by -1 is positive 3. I know I've done it right because these two match. So we have the 2x that floated in the front, the matching term of x plus 3. And if I factor that out, I'm left with 2x minus 1. Okay, last one. We have 3x to the 4th minus 81. So let's decide what's the biggest thing that we can divide out of 3x to the 4th and 81x. They're both divisible by 3, and they both have at least one x on there, so we're going to divide that out. 3x to the 4th divided by 3x is going to give us x cubed. Negative 81x divided by 3x just gives us 27. So now we have two terms left in there. So on the factoring flowchart, if you hit the two-term box, your choice is it a difference of squares, a sum of cubes, or a difference of cubes? I can tell that this is x cubed minus 3 cubed. So you can go ahead and use that difference of cubes formula. So we have the 3x that just floats in the front. This is our a and this is our b. So we're going to go x minus 3, and then it's times x squared plus x times 3 plus 3 squared. So if I simplify all of that, should look like that. If you ever do sum or difference of cubes, this trinomial that's created, it can never be factored any further. It's always stuck.